This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts? Hello, and welcome back to yet again another edition of Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media and brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. I am Tim Johnson, joined as always by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing this evening?
We're not doing too bad. I think both of us are having a little bit of technical difficulties going on here.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a new kind of setup going on in here, and I don't know. I had some mic issues, some headset issues, some lighting issues. The lighting issues might be the least of the problem because I don't think anyone actually wants to see me. So not too worried about that, but hopefully they at least want to listen in. So I had to miss the Cyhawk episode, unfortunately. I mean that happens. So it's been a little bit, but how have you been?
Not too bad. Probably the biggest thing going on right now is my mom is moved back to Des Moines. We moved her in an assisted living. So I'm been kind of taking the head of getting things set up for her, doctor's appointments, things like that, kind of getting things back up. So that's been the bulk of my time. So and it's nice to have her back in town, but it's a lot of work. So also I can't believe we're going to start our rant already. I cannot believe how hard it is to get services for the elderly, like by me, who's fairly tech savvy, and I can't imagine my mom having to do some of this stuff on her own. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, especially because how many of those things have enough questions that even ones that you would get that just don't even make sense, but then all of the calling back or the you need this or all of those things that it would frustrate the hell out of me and take way too long to do. But I'm not going to give up. But someone like your mom might just give up before she even gets that.
Well, she wouldn't even try. She's in this place and they don't have a phone in there, so I'm trying to work to get a phone. First of all, it's impossible to get just a standard landline phone now. You can't get one. So you have to get some kind of voice over IP through your local internet service.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to set that up. It's like $100 for the minimum amount, and that's just the introductory price. I just can't believe that they don't have some kind of a service for people that don't have that capabilities or don't want it. Like, my mom doesn't need internet service. She doesn't need. She wants to get cable for her TV. I mean, I get it, but it's just two things. She's got Medicaid and she's got this Amerigroup, and we can set up and get a cell phone issued through Medicaid. So I contacted her Medicaid person, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you have to fill a form out online." Okay, well, I know how to do that, so I'll do it. But like, it's for the elderly people that are clearly needing assistance. And your solution is they have to go online and fill out an online form?
You know, I once tried to sign up for internet service and they do only allow me to do it online. And I was like, but I mean, how do I get online to get online?
Okay. So we're gonna get into it. And for the people that are tuning in for Blaise Bryant, I don't know if there was a communication error or what have you, but he has not responded back to my text. So we'll try to get him rescheduled, and he may still pop on. But in the meantime, let me tell you the interaction I had today.
And another thing
with Mediacom. So you can't. So you go to their online website. Even if you just want to look to see what their prices are, you have to enter in an address, right? So it captures you and makes you put in an address. So I put in my mom's address, and it gives me the options of what to choose. So I choose the service that I want, and I go forward, and I fill out all the information. I put my cell phone number and my email address down. Again, if you're getting internet access for the first time ever, I'm not sure that they realize that you may not have an email address.
Right.
Again, so I fill all this out, but I put in my mom's information. And, I'm sorry, let's back up. This benefits card that she has allows her to use $50 of this benefit card to help pay for her utilities. So I'm like, okay, I can, it's going to be like $90 some for this service. I'll use the $50 of the benefits card, and then I'll just pay the rest of it for mom every month so that she doesn't have to pay it. So I get everything filled out. I get to the payment portion. I put in the AmeriGroup benefits card. It's like a debit card information. It doesn't take it, and it errors out. And then it tells me I have to call this number. I can't get back into the system to redo it. I thought, okay, well, I'll just go back and start over, and I'll just pay with it for all my card. Nope. As soon as you plug in the address, it takes you right to this thing. It says, oh, you already have an account for this address. Go ahead and call this number. Great. Okay. So I call the number. They won't talk to me because I entered in my mom's information.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, well, can you call her and get her on the phone? No, because she needs a fucking phone. Well, it's not really even a fucking account because I didn't pay for anything yet. It's just a form filled out. It's not even an account. I said, this is ridiculous. They hijacked the address. I can't get back in to redo it. All I want to do is pay. I said, all I want to do is pay you your money. And you're making it so difficult. And they would not talk to me. So I got off the phone, wasted an hour of my time. I get my mom on the phone because she's got this little like FaceTime grandpad thing that you can dial, but it's only And I said, okay, Mom, I'm going to have this other person on the phone. And when they ask you if you give them permission for me to speak on your behalf, you just say yes. And you may have to give them your social security number. Okay. So I get the lady on the phone at Mediacom. They didn't ask me for a fucking thing. They just everything I needed to do. They didn't even ask for my mom. And I was like, what the fuck? Where were you at this morning?
You need to have like an AI deep fake of your mom's voice, so you can just go ahead and do all of those things without having to deal with that.
If Caitlin would have been here, I just would have had Caitlin play the part of my mom. I mean, God, I was so mad today. It was one of the rare moments where I was physically shaking. I like banged on the desk. I was so pissed.
This past weekend, I officiated a wedding. Very first time I've ever been the officiant for a wedding. Every time I tell people I officiated a wedding, they asked if I wore a referee uniform or how many flags did I throw. I don't know what do you say? Perform a wedding? That makes it sound like I'm acting. That I married people? That makes it sound like I'm polygamous. Like I don't. There's no way I could talk about what I did this weekend without multiple people finding ways to make fun of me for doing it. But I officiated a wedding this weekend, and I had to go into the county to get registered with the county. So I'm officially ordained. I'm actually ordained at this point through like 3 different churches just because I wanted to make sure it took or whatever. And I went in and I talked to one person at the government center, and she said, "Oh no, you need this thing, this thing, this thing, and then I'm going to go ahead and like you're going to have to go get it notarized, blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Well, don't you guys notarize?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, but you're going to have to go get this document, whatever." And so I left, and I came back like 20 minutes later, and there was a new woman working there, and I went in there. She's like, "Yeah, you will need to get it notarized, but everything you have with you already is already good, so we'll just let you wait." So I sat there and I waited forever. So first of all, I already bypassed one person. And by the way, I slacked and I did not get registered with the county like as soon as I should have, and there's supposed to be like a waiting period and all this bullshit. So this is on me.
And this was how many days before the wedding?
26 hours. And no, like I had known, like I had literally put a reminder on my phone to go off twice a day for the last 3 weeks that said, "Hey dummy, you're officiating a wedding." And I promptly dismissed it every single time it came up twice a day for 3 weeks. And so I go up, and so finally, like I'm sitting there and I'm waiting with my ticket at the government center, and it literally says like notary, like that's why I'm waiting. And so there's all these other numbers going off and going off and going off, and I finally get up there, and I go up to the woman, and I just lied just straight through my teeth, and I say, "Hey, look, my friends are getting married tomorrow. The original officiant got COVID and can't be here, so we need to rush this. I'm willing to pay an expediting fee, but we need to get this done." She goes, "Oh, no, we can waive that expediting fee. This is extenuating circumstances. Let's go ahead and get this taken care of." And I said, "I know these things need to be notarized." And she said, "Well, I am a notary, but actually I can do this without even having to notarize anything. So let's just not worry about that." And so it was gonna cost me like $120. I was in and out or $30, got everything done, officially legal until Hennepin County hears this. But I mean, come on, I got ordained online. I have an honorary doctor of divinity. So yeah. But the fact that I could talk to 3 different people at the Hennepin County Government Center, get 3 different answers. I can't imagine someone that's older than me and isn't like as ready to use their sweet looks and charisma like I have to get things done. Like I can't imagine being elderly and trying to go get your ID or get your driver's license or any of those things. Drew, that woman definitely pocketed those $30.
That's right.
But I did get a receipt, so that's really all that matters. For me, I got the receipt.
What's going to happen when that wedding certificate that you signed and the license gets sent into the state, and they're going to be like,
"No, I
who the fuck is this guy?"
I dropped it off this morning. Besides, you don't think there's 12 billion people named Tim Johnson registered to officiate a wedding in like
Maybe
within 5 feet of me right now? Like
probably.
Right? Like that was kind of my ace in the hole. Is even if this doesn't work, I am a Tim Johnson and I am registered. But no, I did get the receipt and the copy of all the paperwork, and everything's all good. And I dropped off the marriage certificate, and they said everything is fine, so I'm not worried about that. Plus, those people are gone in Europe for 2 weeks. There's time for that stuff to work out.
Okay, so I got to ask then.
Yeah.
So this brings up an interesting question, because I've heard people say that they do this.
Yeah.
What prompted you to get licensed?
Mm-hmm.
And like, why? Like, why would you? Why?
I literally because they asked. So the couple that I married,
Okay, so this is your first one then.
Correct. Yeah. So
okay.
So the couple that was getting married it's the head brewer of Badger Hill. So my old mentee, right? He took over for me, and his lovely bride, who I think is just way too wonderful for him anyway. They asked if I would officiate their wedding, and I said sure. And so I went online and I decided to get ordained, and then I was like, well, this is fun. Let me see how many other places I can get ordained. So I am ordained in like 3 or 4 different churches, but I have actually decided, I think I'm going to get some business cards made up, and I'm actually going to go ahead and try to do this. And then I talked to a couple people at the wedding, including a brewery owner of Badger Hill, like the owner of Badger Hill. And I said, hey, Chris, you guys have a private event space. You could rent that out and do weddings. I'm like, you could offer up my services as like brewer emeritus of Badger Hill and get your have your not only will you get married at a craft brewery, you will have your ceremony officiated by an actual brewer. And I feel like there's probably enough nerds out there who would actually like that.
And for an extra fee, you could come up with your own recipe beer for that particular couple, and it'd be brewed just for them.
Yeah, it would be the exact same beer, but yes.
Just saying, you could tell them that would be
That's true. That's true.
wedded bliss, or whatever you want to call it.
So, Rob, if you are listening and you would like to have someone officiate weddings down at Revelton in Osceola, Iowa, I am available for hire. I am a hired gun of a minister. What I don't know what like it asked on the marriage certificate what my title is, and one of the documents said Reverend, so I'm going with Reverend. I think the Reverend.
The
Timothy
Reverend Tim
Johnson
Johnson
works.
That totally sounds good.
Yeah, I'll take it. At the bachelor party before that, I was trying to just get everyone to refer to me as Padre all night long, which also works because I'm also like 10 to 15 to 20 years older than everyone who was at the bachelor party. So I kind of felt very fatherly anyway. Also, I got really tired and went and took a nap by the fireplace, which I actually did at the wedding too. So it's perfect.
That is the most old man thing I've ever heard in my life.
Like there's a fireplace at the casino, and I'm like, you guys continue playing blackjack. I'm gonna go over here and read for a little bit and maybe take a nap.
Yeah, I felt that way Saturday. You were officiating a wedding. I watched the game here, and then Stacy and I went to Oktoberfest out of Adventureland. So they had an Oktoberfest day out there, and they had some rides, but they had like 5 or 6 different stages where they had it throughout the park, where they had different music playing and things like that, and you could eat and obviously and drink beer and whatever. And we get out there, and we were out there for probably 3 hours, and then we got home, and I sat down. I wanted to watch Colorado State game, and I was like, I've not got to watch Colorado all year. I mean, everybody talks about the phenomenon that is Prime and whatever, and I know you absolutely can't stand him, and we will talk about it.
I have a lot of thoughts that I want to get into this.
So we will talk about it, because I think you and I might be on different sides on that. So
Sure.
So I come down to the basement. I told Stacey, I said, I'm going to go watch the game. It starts at 9:00 at night. Well, first of all, the fucking thing didn't start till 9:20, and I'm watching, and I'm getting to about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I'm starting to get the whole droopy eye thing, and I'm like, I have to stay up and watch the rest of this game. Kansas State might win this game. So at halftime, I go upstairs. I figure I'll go upstairs. Maybe I won't fall asleep down there. I slept off and on throughout the entire second half. At one point, my eyes were so heavy that I could tell something was happening on the TV. I didn't have the physical strength to actually open my eyes. So I had to like pry them open with my fingers because they were that heavy. I finally woke up after the game had just ended. I go to bed. I wake up the next morning. I got a massive fucking headache. I'm sore. I'm tired. And I just looked at Stacey and I go, I cannot do late nights anymore. Like I'm clearly 1:30 and I'm struggling here. It was so bad that morning.
Yeah, I mean this was a few months or so back. I literally fell asleep at a concert on a date. Just because I am a tired old man. So yeah, I get that. Denny, thank you. By the way, I'm not calling him Prime. He has a name. He's not a transformer. He's not a transformer. His name is Dion. I think people call it Prime because they can't remember how to spell Dion. They don't know where the E and the I and whatever go.
He's been called Prime his entire life. His entire
prime time and Neon Dion.
Right. Okay, right. So
right, but Coach Prime is okay. I'm gonna get into my rant. I'm gonna get in my soapbox about Coach Prime.
Okay, go ahead. I'll give you the floor, and then we will discuss it because I'm kind of digging him.
Okay, so one and my good friend who is in 5th grade, Emmett, goes on a rant about this. He's tired of the whole "no one believed in us" bullshit. That's a little how he put it. It's like, I'm tired of the "no one believed in us" bullshit. And I noticed that on ESPN.com today, they had an article of, here's all the doubters uh, of Colorado and Coach Prime. And you go into the article, and they're not doubters; they're haters, but they're not doubters. Like, there were 0 examples of people saying he can't do it. They were 100% of them were examples of, hey, we don't like the way he's doing it. And so the idea that he's feeding off of, and he's got this really fake narrative of, no, first of all, I hate, like, the Patriot. I remember one year the Patriots won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, and they had like this whole rant about no one believed in us. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you were the odds-on favorite 7
Yeah.
years ago.
That was the same way last year
like,
with the Chiefs.
I am
They played that card too.
I am tired of the "no one believed in us," and Deion Sanders plays up the "no one believed in us" to like the nth degree. Is he a good coach? Sure. Can he coach football? Sure. Well, maybe. He's a great recruiter. He knows that college is largely about recruiting. It doesn't have to, like, in theory, I guess. We'll get into Iowa State in a minute. But he understands all of that stuff. And a lot of people are like, hey, Tim, you're upset because like NIL just changed the script, and this has always been a pro league, and it's always been a farm league for NFL, and NIL is leveling the playing field. Here's the problem. How many players are there on? There's like 110 players on a college football roster at any given time, right? Like it's not a 53-man roster like it is in NFL. There are a ton of players. 90% of those aren't really seeing NIL money. We've talked about this with other people on Three Beers Media podcast about NIL and how it's not necessarily evenly distributed. And so, yeah, it's great. Like, you want to compare, you think about some of the players over the last 20 years, like Cam Newton, who was basically already paid, and Reggie Bush, who was already paid, and all of that bullshit. Yeah, I get, and they're probably the ones who are going to bring you championships and all of that. But the way he came in and treated players who had busted their ass for a university, who were literally doing it just to get an education, I did not care for that. And as Denny says, he's a great marketer of his product, which is himself. He reminds me so much of PJ Fleck, who we've talked about this on this podcast. I cannot stand PJ Fleck, who says row the boat, which I don't know the last time you saw a gopher. They don't ride in boats. PJ Fleck, who made everyone take the name off the back of the jerseys and just put Gophers on the back and then put oars on the side. Again, Gophers don't use oars. PJ Fleck, who multiple articles have come out talking about what a dickbag he is, both by former players and former coaches of his. And people are like, oh, there's always hit pieces this time of year. Oh, people love to hate on successful coaches. I'm like, no, they don't. Like, there are a lot of coaches that don't get hit pieces out about them. I mean, in fact, there's so many coaches that get nothing but like love beyond what I think that was reasonable. I think when there's smoke, there's fire with PJ Fleck, and I think he comes across as an asshole. I've met the guy once, and he came across as somebody who I think would probably get a job with Barstool Sports, and you know how I feel about that place. Because he's just so proud of himself, and Deion Sanders is doing the exact same thing. He is putting the focus on himself. He is making it all about this stupid brand, which is devaluing what is good about college athletics, which is about there are a lot of people who aren't going to go pro that are getting a college degree. That third string defensive linebacker who's a 5th-year senior is getting an education. He's not getting any NIL money. And the way Deion Sanders is treating this like it's a business, go coach a minor league team then. NFL needs a minor league system, right? Because you can do minor leagues in baseball or you can do college in baseball. You can go to, you're seeing it in the NBA. You can go to the G League. Kids are skipping college and going straight to the G League. If college football had a competition with a development league for NFL, maybe you'd see this a little bit different. I just do not care about the way that he's doing it. And yes, is he getting results? Sure. Is he bringing eyeballs to the sets? Sure. Is he bringing money to the school because of it? Sure. Are you able to do all those things without being a douchebag? Yeah. Yeah, you are able to do all those things without being a douchebag. I like people who like praise Steve Jobs because he was an asshole. You don't have to be an asshole to be successful, and it's a stupid idea that you do. That is my problem with Prime, and the way that he like just soaks in it. He has a all-time probably one of the biggest prospects, one of the biggest names, or idea in college football right now of a two-way player who could be an All-American at both positions. How many people can name that guy's name?
I think a lot of people can.
What's his name?
Travis Hunter.
Okay. Do you think his name is being talked about when they talk about college or Colorado football, or do you think they're talking about Deion Sanders?
Well, Deion is obviously the draw in the name. That's
okay.
Okay. Hold on. That clearly is the case. But would Travis Hunter followed him from Jackson State? Travis Hunter was the number one player in America.
Yep.
And chose to go to Jackson State over Florida State at the time.
Yep.
And followed him.
Yep.
Do you think Travis Hunter would have the chance to play both ways and make a case for the greatest college player playing right now and be in the Heisman running if he would have went anywhere other than Deion?
Yes.
Because
yes,
you think that other teams would have let him play both ways?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. You're giving Deion way too much credit for being a football mind. This guy is a physical beast. He had no choice than to play Travis Hunter both ways. I literally think that like Deion, I don't think is this great football mind. I think he is a great marketer. And again, you can do that without being a self-aggrandizing douchebag.
Right. Okay. If Deion wasn't the way he was, if he was just the coach that he is, without the personality,
sure,
is the electricity and the excitement that built around that Colorado State game where it would be? And I saw somewhere, I don't remember what article it was or whatever, but that weekend, Boulder businesses and the actual Boulder Chamber of Commerce measured out. They took in over $8 million for the economy in Boulder that year.
Yeah, I mean, and there are also really boring ass football coaches that have been able to develop that excitement. You don't have to be. You can develop. I mean, look at how excited Iowa State fans got around Matt Campbell. Look at how many records were built on attendance with Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Look at how many times people. Look at Nebraska football and how many times they've sold out.
Because Nebraska is the national brand.
Well, but okay. So let's go back.
Come on, that was a callback. I was waiting for you to.
I know. But let's go back. Let's go back to Matt Campbell. Right? Did he generate more excitement than we've ever seen in our entire lifetime around Iowa State football?
Yes.
And did he have to be a dickbag to do it?
No.
Done. End of argument. You don't have to be a dickbag. You can do great things without being a dickbag.
Do you think Deion is getting all the coverage and everything else because he's a dickbag, or because he's an all-pro NFL Hall of Famer who, when he took that job at Jackson State, you can say all you want, but there were a ton of people that said he can't do it, he can't turn it around, and there were people in the HCBU unions down there that didn't want him there and called him a showboat and called him every name in the book, and he couldn't coach or whatever. And he won there.
Cool.
And then he was
Cool.
told the same thing when he moved to the next level. So I could see why he might have just a little bit of a chip on his shoulder going, hey, listen, I can do this. And
chip on his shoulder is fine. This whole he gave shades to everyone on his team to prove you can be an asshat in interviews. Like that is my problem. Is there's great ways to do this. There's classy, and I know I'm going to sound like a grumpy old man, but you don't have to be an asshole to others to be able to prove a point. You don't have to. And he's relishing in it. He's basking in it. He's the Donald Trump of college football.
Oh, come on now.
Yes, he is. Okay. Donald Trump succeeded where everyone thought he wasn't going to. Right? People love what an asshole he is. People embrace it. It's become a cult-like following, and people show up every single week just to see what Dion does. That is the Donald Trump of college football. I'm sorry, it is. I'm not saying political-wise it is.
Oh, I know you're.
But it's all about a cult of personality, and I'm fucking tired of in this country of cults of personality because they don't breed positive things in the end run. And that is my biggest problem with PJ Fleck, and that's my biggest problem with Deion Sanders. Is he's a cult of personality. When his son is gone, when Turner is gone, if he doesn't do it, what's going to happen to all those other players who got sucked into this cult?
I do think that once his sons are done and Hunter is done, he might bolt. Because I do think there's a little bit of him, I think, that is brought, and this is no rip on his kids, because I mean, obviously Shador can play quarterback.
Yeah, Shador balled out. I will admit I was a little bit of a Shador hater, and he turned me around.
But I think that I do think there's a little bit of him of, I'm doing this so I can help boost my kids up. And once they're gone, maybe he's gone. I do think that. And I will agree with you that those 4 items that you said are, see, you hit me in the feels here, Tim, because
they're very Trumpian. They really are.
And that whole thing about cultism and everything else, I'm 100% on board with you in this country. So now I feel dirty. You've got me feeling dirty defending Deion Sanders, when at the beginning of the night, I kind of look at things differently with him, though. Like the press conference that he gave today, and he stuck up for that kid from Colorado State.
That's the least you can do. Any coach does that.
But he could have moved on and not said anything.
I know, but we're giving him credit for the bare minimum. We're giving him credit for the bare minimum. We wouldn't give Chris Kleiman that much credit for that. We wouldn't give Kirk Ferentz that much credit for that. We wouldn't do that for anyone. We wouldn't give Mike Gundy that much credit for that. But we treat Deion Sanders like, oh my God, what a noble beast he is for saying, hey, people are people. Don't hate on a guy. Don't send him death threats. Literally, it's not a high bar to say don't send a college kid death threats. That's a pretty fucking low bar. If we're going to say he is a brave soul for saying, hey guys, don't send a college kid death threats, then we've already devalued what it means to be a leader of young 18 to 22-year-old men in the first place. If the best we can say is, look, that guy's really good because he teaches you to not send death threats to college kids, I'm not patting him on the back for it. I'm not. I can't.
This is why I love this is going to come out as a compliment. This is why I absolutely love this podcast and working with you. Because you do make me think about things. You do make me think about things. When I did hear that today and went, he could have bypassed it. He could have just said, hey, we're moving to Oregon. I did admire that he did take time out to say that. But as I hear you explain it to me that way, that it is the bare minimum, you're right. Anybody should say that.
Like literally,
so you're right.
Should. If he didn't address it, I would have called him an asshat, and he would have said, "Yeah, you're right." But there would have been plenty of other people saying, "Well, he didn't need to address it." Come on. A college kid that he just played against got death threats. Death threats. We just got done with a week ago Vikings players getting racist threats in their Instagram account, which I got into with a couple of them and gave them my home address and they can come here. If you're going to go ahead and be racist against a Vikings player, and I'm not even that big of a Vikings fan, but you're welcome to come to my front door, but you won't because I happen to live in Minneapolis proper and you live in Forest Lake and you're afraid of the city because you think everybody is going to kill you. Me and my 8-year-old daughter are perfectly safe in the city. So anyway, that's a whole other rant about how many people in outstate and exurbs are afraid of the city and blame everything.
I saw somebody post on Twitter today a picture of a Corvette with the top down parked in Minnesota proper, and they were like, and the caption was, "Yeah, it's really dangerous here in Minneapolis. We're just parking our Corvettes out here with the tops down because we're afraid somebody's going to steal it."
It blows my mind. Granted, I will admit that I had my car stolen, but I had my car stolen in a really affluent, really safe area. And at the same time, a woman I was seeing at the time, her brother's car was stolen in a town of 2,000 people or something like that on the exact same weekend. So it's not like you're safe from shit like that. Like that
Right.
that stuff happens. I've lived here for over 20 years. I've never been mugged. I've certainly not followed the rule of don't be out after midnight. Nothing good happens after midnight. You're right. Nothing good happens after midnight, but luckily nothing bad has yet. And now I go to bed at like 9, so that's never going to happen. The idea that this place is like this weird, and then every time a business shuts down, like businesses have not shut down every day for the last 3 billion years. Like sometimes businesses shut, especially like restaurants. The average lifespan of a restaurant is like less than a year. And then if you go to ones that have been open more than a year, like the longest they last typically is like 8 years. And some place will be open 9 years. And they're like, oh, they're shutting down because of crime. And I'm like, or because they've run its course and the market got saturated and people changed.
Yep.
But then those people also feel like they need to carry a gun into Walmart. I have never gone into Walmart and been afraid for my life. I certainly don't need a gun on me. I do. Oh, wait, is this where we're Bolsheviks?
Yes. Oh yeah, we're talking about that. We're going to talk about that next. Yeah. Let's by all means, let's take a break. That sound good?
Yeah. Well, I'll let you introduce this break then.
Okay. So again, we are super excited. Revelton Distillery, just want to thank those guys for renewing their sponsorship with us, putting their faith in us. They were right on board when Tim and I and Aaron decided to launch this little endeavor that we got going here. Once we announced it, a couple of days later, Rob texted me and he was like, "Hey, I'm on board with you guys. I believe in what you're doing." And Rob and Christy are wonderful people. They have a great distillery down in Osceola, Iowa. Go check out their tasting room. Check out their items at Fairway, Hy-Vee, anywhere you can buy it. So let's get an ad from them. And then when we come back, let's talk about how we're Bolsheviks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go refresh my whiskey, by the way.
All right.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
All right.
That was good. I tell you what, man. thanks for letting me get all heat. I did not know I was going to get all this fired up. This is not what I expected from this.
This is an old school old man strength, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is.
I feel like we're a little out of practice on that.
No, this is great. This is OMS classic.
That's right. That's right.
And hey, Denny, thank you very much for the support. I'm glad someone in the comments understands that I know what I'm talking about.
That being said, I will continue to watch Colorado because I think that shitter Sanders can play. Also, I just
wait. Could you pronounce his first name again one more time?
Shador.
Okay.
Yeah, I said it wrong the first time.
Okay. Yeah. You sound like Randy Quaid in Christmas Vacation.
All right.
Anyway.
All right. Let's talk about this review we got.
Yeah.
So going through Apple Podcast Connect, checking out some of the numbers, and I was like, oh, I wonder if we've gotten any new ratings and reviews. And I was like, man, our review rating went down to like a 4.6. What the hell? So then I find this 1-star review. These are the people who are helping the ruination of Iowa and America. Old man strength ? More like Bolsheviks Marxism. Posted, by the way, by Highway Dick.
That guy is definitely a Highway Dick. I welcome people not liking our podcast. We are obviously not for everyone. Kind of reminds me of the time that the feedback we got was we were a little one-sided. When did we ever say that we were
Right.
neutral on anything whatsoever? Also, like I want to point out, this is not a well-kept secret that Rob Taylor at Revelton Distilling used to be in politics. Used to represent politics different than mine. Still probably has political views different than mine. And my favorite thing about Rob is that he has never once tried to get us to say anything other than what is on our heart and on our mind. And I think for as fired up as we get about things, I'm still wondering what the fuck made us Bolsheviks.
I had to look it up because I couldn't remember.
because high school government class has been that long ago.
It's a long time ago. At first, I thought Bolshevik and Marxism was an oxymoron. I thought they were opposite, but they're not.
They're not. No, at least that person was consistent. You usually get like communist Nazis, and I was like, okay, but
and of course, one of our former guests, Ryan Happy, commented and said it ain't that deep. And I said it was probably your episode, Ryan, that put him over the edge with the bath and taking this country down one bubble bath at a time. So I'm sorry, Highway Dick, if bubble baths and some candles ruined your evening for you, but because I'm sure that was the take. I'm sure that was the take that did it. Listen, I don't hide. I don't hide who I am on social media. I don't hide who I am on any of our Three Beards Media podcasts that we're involved in. But I do welcome open debate, and I do welcome other points of view as far as being respectful to that, short of absolute batshit crazy conspiracy people. Those people I put a hard wall up and don't even give them a chance. But I don't have, I've said this before, I don't have any problem having a conversation with somebody that may see something different than me politically. I can be respectful. I can get my point across, and we can move on and have a drink later. That's okay. But these people that take this shit to extremes and the country's coming down, at the crumbling base and all that out because somebody might be on the other side of it. I can't with those fucking people. I can't. I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm not going to handle it.
Yeah, no, and so I get on the fence about the conspiracy theory people, because like right now the funny one to me right now is that John Fetterman has been replaced by a body double. I don't know if you've seen that online.
I've not seen it. No,
It's
it doesn't surprise me though. It does not surprise me.
John Fetterman, has come out. He's got a nice big burly. It's the fucking sexiest mustache ever. Like that.
Oh yeah, I've seen him lately. Yeah.
Right? He looks like Sergeant Slaughter, who for a while followed me on Twitter. He looks like Sergeant Slaughter, but like better. And people are like, nah, that's not him. Like I swear to God, these conservatives are probably the ones who got confused when Superman put on glasses and became Clark Kent. Like literally, I don't know if they understand how like lenses work and how lighting works and how things work. I mean, our Three Birds Media logo has me bald with a long beard. I'm neither. It just changes how these things work.
I know. That logo looks more like John Fetterman than you do.
Exactly. But the other thing we saw footage here the other night of GOP members literally lighting books on fire with a flamethrower. We have seen a very very clear hypocrisy from obviously Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. I think we've seen ridiculous articles or not articles of impeachment have been drawn up, but an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden for just doing his job. And I'm not a Biden fan by any means at all. I think there's just a lot of disingenuous theater that has gone on where the old saying is, and I don't have a better system. But the old saying is democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner.
Yeah,
is that the GOP has learned that what matters is getting elected, not actually doing a goddamn thing.
Right.
Right. And so it all becomes theater to an extent. And when it starts to get into restricting the rights of others, so my friends who might identify as trans or non-binary, or fucking the case of Mike Pence gay, which is not in 2023 should not be revolutionary, or people who identify. We still see a lot of anti-Islamic hate here in the Twin Cities, anti-Somali hate, anti-Hmong hate here in the Twin Cities. In Minneapolis, St. Paul is pretty goddamn blue, about as blue as you possibly can get, and we see this stuff. Once it starts to actually affect people, like at a personal level, who aren't hurting you, right? Every time I see, this youth pastor or this conservative, or we sent Anthony Lazzaro, the GOP operative, just got convicted of sex trafficking, and people are going to come down on drag bingo at a brewery on a Thursday night.
Yeah,
like that's where I start to get really, really, really pissed off.
Yes, I agree, and that's what I mean when I say I can sit and have a conversation with somebody that might think, okay, this tax policy is a little different than what I feel we're doing. Maybe the economy needs to be ran more conservatively. What those things like that.
Sure.
But when we start talking about, and I'm hesitant to get deep into it. I don't know why. I've never been hesitant before. When we start talking about people's individual choice and rights, and I never seem to hear that from the left.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I go to mass every Sunday. I have a very personal, deep relationship with God
Yeah.
and Jesus. Man, some of these people that claim the moral high ground over there, I just can't get on board with. Like, and number one is, and I've held this tongue for a while, but a couple months ago, Ron DeSantis held a meet and greet and a rally in a fairly large church here in Des Moines, and I instantly
Mhm.
was like, "Man, that's a line that should not be crossed." Like, you cannot have a political candidate hosting a political rally in a church.
I
That's out of bounds for me.
I mean, even when I was a church attendee, uh, I never liked the idea of a church that would have espouse any political position and yet claim tax exemption.
Right. That's what I had said. I said they need to revoke their tax exempt status right away.
Yep.
They you have hosted now and he's given his spiel, and none of it, I'm sorry, none of it has any kind of Christian value whatsoever. When you're talking about, I get that our border should be secure and that we should have certain things in place and whatever, but when you're talking about executing people at the border, that is not something that the Jesus Christ that I believe in would go for.
You know,
And
yeah.
and you're preaching that, and you're talking about those types of policies and whatever in a church. That's no.
Yeah, the big thing that seems to get lost on conservatives that always, but well, I shouldn't say conservatives. Again, if you want to get into tax policy, if you want to get into government spending, which, side note, the national deficit under Trump went the opposite direction. Let's not pretend like
Correct.
that. Let's not pretend like that was a positive that was not a conservative when it comes to that.
Correct.
I would be a conservative when I like historically I have voted more liberal in national elections and more conservative in local elections. Typically I have voted a lot more conservative in local elections because we're doing really well in this state, and we have for years now. As of late, we've had our fair share of batshit crazies. I literally was just looking earlier today. I have a letter of thank you from one of our representatives who got voted out because he was a shitbag, but he thanked me for giving him a tour of the brewery. And literally, I had been trolling him on Twitter for a long time, and it took about like 90 minutes into the tour before one of his aides figured out who I was. Because he kept on talking about things about like small business, blah 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 blah, and I kept on talking about like work. And hey, man, I'm a capitalist who believes in workers' rights. I know that seems weird. Like people always want to put you on workers' rights or capitalism.
Right.
I believe in the ability to grow your business and to develop something. Man, if someone wanted to pay me $1 million to sell Old Man Strength at Three Beards Media, I'd sit down and say, so let's talk about will these be large bills or small bills?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to look out for the fact that people just have a right to like fair treatment. So I care about those things, but when you start to get into not just the how we're spending money, all those traditional things, and you get into things like border security and things like that, it reminds me of the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? So we all know the parable of the Good Samaritan. What the biggest challenge I have with most Christians with the parable of the Good Samaritan, and I've seen this in Catholic churches, I've seen this in Lutheran churches, I've seen this in evangelical churches, is they all lack the historical context of that might as well be called, for Americans, the parable of the good Mexican. It is inherently racist, and I don't mean racist like the Bible is racist against races, but inherently that whole story, the Samaritans were treated as a lesser than.
Yes.
So that story isn't about, hey, here's a guy who did a good deed. That story is literally about, here is a class of person that we thought was a lesser class of person. So when Steve King talks about calves the size of cantaloupes, or when Trump says they're sending their rapists, their murderers, or whatever, or even, I mean, fuck, Joe Biden 20 years ago and his stance on this. I'll play both sides.
Yep.
The way Barack Obama continued drone strikes against other people, like this is not a partisan issue necessarily, but to suggest that any of these things are Christian morals is because people look at the parable of the Good Samaritan and think it's about people making good choices, and it's not what it really was about is learning that people that you consider less than might make more moral decisions than you are willing to accept. And you now need to accept that the people that are already in a quote unquote lower class or a lesser class are making great decisions. And I feel like that parable might be one of the more misunderstood in the Bible when you consider that at the time people from Samaria were literally treated like we treat people from Central and South and even Mexico, like Central America, the way we treat immigrants, which I shouldn't say all immigrants. There's never been anyone proposing a border wall against Canada.
Right.
And I know plenty of people who have snuck in illegally from Canada. There's never been people proposing tighter restrictions on people immigrating from London. Right?
Right.
And let's be honest, this immigration debate, it's about race and class. It's not about protecting the sovereignty of America. It's not about protecting the sovereignty of America. It's about race and class. And so if Ron DeSantis is going to pull that shit, he's not a conservative and he's not a Christian. He's neither.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not sure how they hijacked. I mean, they have for years. I mean, it started with Reagan and that era, how they've hijacked the family values, right wing, conservative Christian market. It's I think what starts to scare me now is we are moving away from, again, I am in more of a central area where I am very close to my God and to my personal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider myself a very faithful person. But man, we are starting to move into Christian nationalism, white nationalists territory that is like fucking dangerous. Like,
yeah,
to your point, the other day when with the video of people burning books, I mean, you look at the state of Iowa and you ask yourself, what law have they passed that has been the betterment of society and their citizens? They are allowing people to target literature and books in libraries and telling you what you can and can't read. This is the argument I have for that. So there's a certain book, for example, I don't know let's say there's a book in a library in a school and you find it inappropriate. You don't want your child to have access to that book.
Yeah.
Okay, that's within your right. You don't want your child to read that book. But what if I'm all right with it? Why should you be able to tell me what my kid can read. You shouldn't be able to do that any more than I should be able to tell you your kid should have to read that.
I mean,
So why the moral high ground? Why do you get to choose what my child doesn't have access to?
well,
You shouldn't.
I mean, frankly, if half of the people getting up in arms about any of the books going on, so I have made no bones about the fact that I was raised more religious than I am right now. But that also, I will tell you, I have read the Bible 3 times, through 3 different ways. If you've read any of the Old Testament, if you've read Song of Solomon in particular, you know there's some pretty racy stuff in there.
Yep.
King Solomon had how many wives? Supposedly the wisest man who ever lived, right?
Yep.
Had how many wives? King David and his lust, and the murder that came out of that lust. If you've read any of these things, they are way racier than a Judy Blume book that talks about maybe some kid masturbating once. Like it literally is way more explicit than any of those things. And if you want a 13-year-old kid to understand what it's like to feel lust and touch themselves in their bed versus to get the context of anything in the Old Testament,
Right.
like, but the reality is like, someone like Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Joni Ernst are literally some of the more prominent voices, frankly, in the Christian right. Let's not even get into Jerry Falwell Jr., which, by the way, side note, I want to get into at some point. The very good documentary on the Jerry Falwell Jr. scandal that's on Hulu. All of these things that are supposedly bad, you'd have to ban the Bible. You would have to ban the Bible. But I guarantee you, all of these conservatives that are literally burning books with the flamethrower, ask them if they will burn the Bible with the flamethrower.
Right.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
No. And so we have that. We have the school voucher program where they have now allowed, for long story short, they've allowed basically you to apply for a grant and a credit to pay for private school.
Yeah.
So that under the guise that anybody would have the opportunity to then go to a private school. Well, then it came out that almost 90% of the people that qualified for that already were approved and were already in paying for that tuition to begin with. They didn't open up more slots for people. They still have the ability to tell people no. So all it basically did was give somebody a kickback, but we're not going to waive crushing student debt. We don't want to do that. Don't even get me started on this transgender women's bill. The 0.01% of women, trans women that might be playing sports, it's a non-issue. All we have done in this state is, the abortion restrictions and the healthcare and things like that, all wrapped into that. They have not passed one thing that has been the betterment of the of improving somebody's life. It's taken away restrictions and taken away certain rights by a party that claims to be less government interference. Yeah. That's their whole claim. But that's all they've passed. They have not passed one thing that has been the betterment of. Now maybe they have, but that doesn't get the news, right? Maybe there has been some bipartisan.
I think they have, and Rob Sand did a really good job when he was on here of challenging some of our challenges. Like Rob did a really good job of talking about what his colleagues have done, right? And so 2 things I want to talk about. Like, one part of the Bolshevik comment was that we're ruining Iowa. Highway Dick, I don't live in Iowa. So
I'm
Good-
creating a Twitter
good-
persona that says Highway Dick. That's what I'm.
Good luck, dude. I'm sorry. B.
Tim's already ruined Minnesota.
B. I, and Chris already knows this rant, and Aaron, the third beard in Three Beards Media, hates that I go off on this rant, but I have pointed out how terrible property taxes are in Iowa. They're terrible. They're terrible, and I know maybe some of you Iowans don't think they are, and it's because you live in a bubble and you have not looked at literally anywhere else. And guess what? Like Aaron lives in Washington State. His property taxes are better than yours, and he doesn't pay like taxes on any goddamn thing. Like Washington State has like some of the lowest tax burden, and he's complaining about it. You guys are doing nothing to draw Fortune 500 companies into your state. You're literally pushing them away.
That's
You're
correct.
literally discouraging everything you do when it comes to trans rights or gay rights or any of these things. Is literally, why would I, if I'm 3M, United Healthcare is like the third largest company in the United States right now. Up here, it's up here in the Twin Cities, but it's one of the largest by revenue. It's like the fifth largest by stock. Like, do you know how many of those employees have trans kids or are trans themselves?
Yeah.
Or just trans sympathizers? Why would they want to go to a state like Iowa that is being negative to that? Like, you're already pushing these people away with this legislation. I know you think you have it good. I'm sorry. I thought I had it good in beer when I lived in a beer bubble. And once I got out of the beer bubble, I went, oh no, that's just the bubble I lived in. I'm not ruining Iowa by being a Bolshevik on a podcast. And if I did have that power, your state fucking sucks. I'm an idiot on a mic. I'm not bringing down your state. Thank you, Highway Dick, for that. But there's just so many other things about that it's like the number of, so it's weird to me to see the 1940s the Democrats really held the evangelical vote. The Democrats are traditionally known as the DFL because they had the farmer and labor vote. And in Iowa right now, if you belong to a union or you are a farmer, who are you likely voting for? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And so the DFL has done a shitty job of representing those people. They've done a shitty job of representing those people, and I get that. They're dropping the ball left and right. I just don't get how many people vote against their self-interest, and they do it because of, this is what we call a callback. This is where I go back earlier into the podcast. Cult of personality.
Yes.
People care about Joni Ernst because she's a firebrand. People loved Steve King because he's a firebrand. And you know who they voted in? Oh, yeah, maybe they didn't vote out Steve King. They didn't exactly vote in someone who's like a radical. They just voted in someone who's like less of an asshole. Right?
But probably still as dangerous.
Correct.
Yep.
The reality is that people are voting radically against their self-interest because of cult of personality. This is the way I'm tying a bow on this conversation here, Chris.
You say it so much more eloquently than I do, because I mean, there are times that I want to go off on a rant or whatever, and I just back away, because sometimes I do feel like I'm just banging my head against the wall.
Right.
And I see those voting against self-interest in my inner circle. I mean, listen, my mom is in assisted living and has certain needs and things like that, and programs that are designed to help her, and certain people that get elected cut those types of funding for elderly citizens, but yet they still turn around and vote for them. But then later on, we'll complain because mom doesn't have this service or that service, or Aunt Lyda doesn't have this service or that service. I mean, and it's all I can do, Tim, to not lose my mind.
Yeah.
So let's.
Yeah, the same way that the GOP hijacked the Evangelical Party, they've done it with the Labor Party. They've done it with literally everyone else.
And I've said this before. And we'll put a wrap on the state of Iowa. You know who I blame for that? The Iowa Democratic Party.
Yeah, because they fucking suck.
They're terrible.
They're terrible.
They're absolutely terrible. The only glimmer of hope that I've seen from them in the last 6 or 7 months was when Warren County, I don't know if you heard about this story, Warren County had an auditor that had retired. She had been in the auditor's office for 20 years. And the representatives here in Warren County appointed a GOP member and the lady was a Democrat, and wanted the board to appoint her assistant. They didn't. They appointed a known GOP person who had pushed conspiracy theories like 9/11 wasn't real and the election was stolen and everything else. And the Warren County Democratic Party and the state Democratic Party got to work, got enough petitions, and then Kim Sheets ran a solid campaign to get elected to Warren County Auditor in a special election. That was the only time that I saw that they had actually done something. And but this county, this state's Democratic leadership is in shambles. It's in shambles.
Well, it's in shambles across the country. There's literally no reason there hasn't been a blue wave other than the fact that the Democrats can't get out of their own way. They cannot stop tripping over their dick. And man, I want to be fair to people with a lot of experience. Nancy Pelosi, step the fuck down.
Yes,
you're the Chuck Grassley of this, and you're trying.
Dianne Feinstein.
No one cares.
Mitch McConnell.
Speak for me.
Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, Chuck Grassley. Why are you still there? Why would you not want to spend time with your grandkids and rest on your laurels and whatever? I know why. I know why, because the people behind them are so desperate for power that they put their puppets up there and push them out in front of the camera when they can't even function.
No, I'm still convinced that for Chuck Grassley, it's that literally his family hates him. and he
probably gets free Dairy Queen. But, which
he misspells
yes.
Quen on Twitter because he thinks he needs to save characters. Yeah,
I've said several times. I think Joe Biden was the only one that could defeat Trump at the time. He needs to move on.
Oh,
he's not helping anybody.
I swear to God, I swear to God, half the reason, and I'm not even a fan of hers because she's a whole other conversation we get in on another podcast about Bolsheviks is our stance on police and things like that. And obviously we have had 5-0 tweets. We've had Sergeant Paul Prizik on here, and we are not anti-cop. Although we have been accused. We got accused of being anti-cop. Like
we did.
2 episodes after we had Paul on.
Yeah.
Right.
Not by Paul.
Yeah, no, Paul. Yeah, Paul literally is like, fuck those guys. I'm not coming back on there. I believe that was actually the official stance. He said as the don't quote me on this. I can't be sued for libel. The official stance of the Des Moines Police Department.
Right.
No,
yeah, it's not.
No, it's not at all. Paul's a good friend of ours. my challenge with Kamala is she has a lot of stances like Biden that I hated 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I do think that half the reason people voted for Biden, well, not half, but I think there was a substantial amount of people who voted for Biden that were like, well, he's old, maybe Kamala will take over. I don't want her to run. I do think someone else should, but at the end of the day, my parents asked me to unplug the Roku. I'm tired of old people trying to run the country.
Right. I know. I'm aware.
They're trying to unplug the Roku.
We got to get an ad.
Oh yeah,
Kyle Lehman.
Let's get Kyle.
We obviously don't have a Kyle Lehman question of the pod.
Yeah.
But then we come back. Let's tie up some Three Beards news and things like that. So if you're still listening, we really appreciate it. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this shit show. And yet Kyle Lehman just sticks with us every year. So we appreciate it, Kyle. Hit him up for all your mortgage needs, refinances. He's got great programs for rentals and things like that as well. So we're going to get a quick ad from Kyle at Wintrust Mortgage.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
By the way, guys, if you have not bought a house within like the last 10 years, I bought a house this last spring, and I have purchased multiple houses in the past. And I can tell you that this last spring, the house buying process was a nightmare compared to what it used to be. It used to be like, hey, you show up and like, hey, got a couple bucks. My name's Tim. Give me a house. And they said yes. And then in 2008, the housing market collapsed, and we went through all these regulations and it's fine. And then 2015 or whatever, I bought a house, and they're like, you know what? It's still not that bad. Let's get you into a house. And then this last year, they were like, we have 3 riddles, and I don't know if you've seen Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, but you're going to have to learn Yiddish and find a way to get across a cavern. And I hope you didn't get your head chopped off. And then maybe we'll consider if you can get a mortgage. And the best way to get through all of that is to get a mortgage specialist. So I cannot tell you enough how much finding someone like Kyle Lehman is very important in that process. So please go ahead and check him out. Kyle, that might be the best commercial you've ever gotten.
It might be. I'll have to pull that out and we'll just send it over to me. Somehow we wrapped up home buying and Indiana Jones and Yiddish all in the same.
Yeah, well, that's what
good.
I do. Well, so Chris, we've had a whole lot of things. I thought I did a really good job of wrapping up a bow on Cult of Personality, and then I just went. But then I went just batshit crazy on everything else. But we do have some really exciting things going on at Three Beards Media. You're much better about like keeping up to date and informed in all of these things on what's going on because I'm tired. So can you let our listeners know what else we have going on this network?
Yeah, well, let's talk about our recurring shirt sales right now. So we here at Three Beards Media are big proponents of equality. And this spurred from another podcast of ours, Hot Mess Happy Hour, when they had Steph Copley on and talking about how labeling women's teams by the the label of lady diminishes their importance to the universities and so forth. So that kind of sparked an idea of a t-shirt. So currently what we are doing, we are selling these shirts and the money is going to Iowa State's We Will Collective to be earmarked for women's athletics only. And then on the University of Iowa side, we are doing Her Keys, which is an organization that supports women's athletics. But I thought it would be best to let Steph Copley explain the real reason behind the shirt. So we're going to get a quick word from Steph and why it's important.
Like someone said, I get it if the name is genderized, like the Cowboys, the Cowgirls. Like DCG has the Phillies and the Mustangs. Like I can kind of get that. I think you should probably just change your mascot at that point, but whatever. But here, there's no reason for it. There is no reason for it except to suggest that the women are less than. And frankly, like if you don't understand that, you're part of the problem. And I'm just like, I'm done. And it's conversations like these that in the past I would have been like, like whatever, it's a small thing. No, it's not a small thing. Let's talk about it. And I'm sorry if you don't like it. If you don't like hearing me talk about it, don't listen or don't follow me or whatever. I'm just done not saying the things anymore. I am committed to saying all the damn things and like, sorry. But I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry.
You're not sorry. No.
I mean, I don't know how to better to explain it than to let the women of Three Beards Media explain it.
I think that's perfect. So I don't know if they're still around. I know the Eastern Iowa Hawkeye Conference isn't around anymore. I don't know what the hell that's called anymore. But when I was growing up, we played West Liberty, and the men were called the West Liberty Comets. And the women were called the West Liberty Lady Bells. First of all, why weren't they just called the Bells? Why did they have to be Lady Bells?
Right.
They weren't even the Lady Comets. They were
right.
Lady
They weren't
Bells.
even the Comets. Right.
Right. None of that made. And plus they spelled Bells like with an ES, like Southern Bell. Like none of that made like Liberty Bells. If they both would have just been Lady Bells, it means I don't know what Liberty has to do with. Anyway, it was so dumb. And so to see things like Cyclones and Lady Cyclones, or
right.
Why? This is sports.
Well, and we had some pushback from some people, of course. They tried to tie that into to the transgender. Well, if you support so much that women should be equal, then you believe that women should only play women's sports. I'm not going to engage in that kind of bullshit with people. Either you want to support equality in women's sports, that they're equal with men, or you don't. Either way, I'm not going to debate you, and I'm not going to have that argument.
Yeah, there are a lot of things where you can still say, yeah, there's not a lady versus a man, but I still want to enjoy entertainment equally, right?
Right. Yep.
Right? Like, yeah, to me, it feels like saying, yeah, well, there's an Oscars and an Emmys, and why don't you just say things we watch? Well,
right.
No, because they're like you can enjoy what is going on. You don't have to be like, well, it's ladies this or men's this. It's sports.
Yep.
It's sports.
Sports.
Why can't you enjoy athleticism at the end of the day? Like that is what I would love to see. Yep. So yes. So anyway,
we're selling those shirts through October, through the beginning of women's basketball season. So links are in our bio. So please go purchase a shirt, and we will get that money over to the collectives. As far as everything else, we're kind of at full strength on pods right now. Ball Don't Lie with Teddy and Justin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I know you brought this up on the Cyhawk preview show on OMS, but why don't you spend a little bit more time and talk about what our new podcasts are? So we're now deep into them. So
10 strong. We have the latest 3. Let's just talk about the latest 3. Obviously, our Hawk's Eye View with Drew Shipley from he's from Maryland. He was an Iowa graduate, serves in the armed forces, and then Andrew Barber a local guy here in Des Moines. They do something a little unique. They do a quick little 30-40 minute preview episode on Thursdays, but then they do a nice little instant reaction show after Saturday's games. So those quick hits, they go twice a week. And then Justin and Teddy are doing Ball Don't Lie. They've resurrected that. They were formerly with the Sean Taraz Show, which was Sean Roberts' little production company. They go Thursday afternoons at 4:00 in the afternoon. They give you their college picks, their NFL picks, and then Sunday mornings, they tweet out their picks for the Circa Millions. They have entered the Circa Millions, and you can keep track of their record picks. They are 7-3 right now on their picks.
I was gonna say, if
Circa picks. So
for those of you who remember, Teddy has been on the podcast. Well worth a listen. Those guys are probably a lot smarter about picking sports than I
dude,
want to
they
give them
are
credit.
they are legit polished on there. They do a really good job, and I enjoy sitting in the back end and in the background and listening and producing and things like that. So, but then probably our next big endeavor is our partnership with Sam Anker at First Down Brewery in Winterset. Twofold. They are going to him and his two partners, who are three high school basketball referees, are going to launch a new pod called Three Blind Refs.
Well, let's back up and explain who Sam is.
Yes, Sam is former walk-on Iowa State football player during the Rhodes era. He was a long snapper. He now is the head brewer and owner of First Down Brewery in Winterset, Iowa. He is one of the ones that came up in conjunction with the Trice Legacy Foundation to launch the Legacy beer, the Legend. And he reached out to me about a podcast. So we are going to launch a Three Blind Refs podcast with him and his two partners, where they're going to talk about their referee times, their road trips, behind the scenes stuff, coach stories, game stories, things like that. But Tim, I'll let you announce the other part of this, because I'm super excited for this, and this is more in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sam and I have been talking. So for those of you who might know that I also happen to be a professional brewer, Sam and I have been trying to figure out what we can do to create a beer that represents Three Beards Media, and we are really excited to talk about what's going on. He and I are continuing to collaborate. We'll come up with something that's going to be great, but please go ahead and take a look out for it. We will announce it on all of our socials, as will Sam and First Down. And I'm really excited for you guys to enjoy a Three Beards beer.
Yeah, I can't wait to taste it and to be able to go down. We'll have a little launch party down there at the brewery, and
yeah, I'm planning on going down for the brew day and talking about what that looks like and taking some pictures, shaking some hands, kissing some babies. Don't screw that up, Tim. And this, and when I say collaboration, as a brewer, we do a lot of collaborations, and I would say that this is absolutely a very true collaboration. Sam and I have talked a lot about, like, we've annoyed Chris very much with what this looks like. He has no idea what we're talking about.
none.
I've even tried using small words.
I mean, I think it was in English, but it could have just
as
much as been Chinese as far as I know.
Yeah. You can't use a word like methoxypyrazine and not lose Chris. So anyway, very excited for what we're gonna do. So go ahead and keep posted to that, and then that Three Blinds Ref podcast. Really excited to see how that develops, and a very unique perspective for a lot of people on Old Man Strength and on Side of the Storm and on Hawk's Eye View and on Hot Mess Happy Hour and on how many different shows, Chris? Ooh, you changed cameras. Look at that. You're
That's
fancy.
a stupid thing.
But how many times have all of us thought that we know better than refs? It's going to be fun to actually have people
Bill Blank's gonna hate him.
Oh God, Bill Blank, Bill Blank should be one of their first guests.
Yeah, we talked about it on False Starts last week, and I warned him, and he's like, I will hate every one of them. So
yeah, no, it'll be perfect.
That Jordan Bohannon episode that we had with him and Jordan Bohannon when they got on the subject of refs was pure gold. It was pure gold. So
it really was, and I really hate how much it made me appreciate Jordan Bohannon.
You know what? I kind of dig him. Now that he's not wearing the hockey uniform, I kind of dig him.
No, he's a good kid. It went well, and he even admitted his own hypocrisy in areas, which I thought was great. Like he's very self-aware. God damn it! How many times are you gonna make me like defend Hawkeyes on this goddamn podcast?
I love it. It's so much fun.
Oh my God! Like I've professed my love for Kirk Ferentz. If you get me going on well,
the ultimate goal will be when I get you to defend PJ Fleck.
No.
If you had a choice and you had to sit down and have a beer with either PJ Fleck or Deion Sanders, which would it be?
Hemlock. I would go ahead.
Nope. You know what? You can stew on that until the next episode. You can think about it.
All right. No, I do appreciate that. Is probably a good place to end. Listeners, you know what? Let's put out a poll. Listeners, who would you rather have a beer with? PJ Fleck, Deion Sanders, or Hitler? Let's go ahead and put that out there. Let's figure out who is the lesser of three evils. We'll talk about this. And with that, thank you very much for listening to another edition of Old Man Strength podcast, brought to you by Three Beards Media, Wintrust Mortgage, and of course, our sponsors at Revelton Distillery. Please find them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa. And with that, folks, we will see you guys next time.